think it's time, man. I think it's time we talk about some fun foreign comics.
Oh, man, I'm getting a little hot under the collar here. Time to turn the lights off.
Ooh, you want to turn the lights off? All right, we're going to talk about. I just got that. I just understood what you said there. I'm like, oh, is he actually hot? No. It's about to get hot here. But okay, let's ease into this fun Spider-Man. Yeah, I said it earlier on the show. Sex toy story, and it's freaking great, dude. It's so funny. Okay, we're gonna move this gorgeous comic. We'll do a giveaway soon, but I want to show you this. This right here is the first. I can see it right there. I'll make sure you have good pictures of it. This is the first Portugal Spider-Man comic book ever printed. It's pretty dope. It's painted cover. It's got some pen marks, someone colored it in when they were in Portugal.
I like that.
It gives us some character. It's the first impression. It's the first official Marvel product printed in Portugal. And it's a reprint of ASM issue number 84.
So yeah, this story is from Amazing Spider-Man 84. It's called The Kingpin Strikes Back, or in Portugal, they called it Kingpin Contra-Ataca.
This is dope because there's a couple things going on with this. The interior's in black and white, but it is a translated edition. We want to make sure to use these words correctly. This is not a reprint.
A variant.
And not a variant.
That's true.
Not a reprint, not a variant, an edition. This has a lot of things going for it. First, Portuguese Spider-Man comic book. Awesome. The cover is completely different than ASM 84. So that's like two different reasons why I really enjoyed this book. And then the interior is an actual translated version in Portuguese of the comic. Fantastic. Had to buy it. But what's also really cool is that we got fans in other countries that I'm finding doing this foreign, work, trying to bring the foreign comic community to the masses. And they sent some gifts.
Oh, man.
This person sent me some gifts. So she sent me two different things. The first one is this Aranja 53. Now, I felt like I've seen this cover before.
It looks oddly familiar.
But then at the same time, I feel like I haven't seen this cover before.
The webs look all ropey.
Well, I opened up the interior and I don't even know what comic it adapts because I haven't been able to figure it out yet. It's a Brazilian comic, but then it hit me.
That's Tom McFarlane.
This is the Spider-Man from ASM 301.
Yep.
This is a 301 foreign comic book. However, it's not the same cover and it's not the same interior.
It makes more sense. He's swinging over New York instead of over the word 300 over and over.
That does actually make a little bit more sense.
Todd.
I was like, what's going on? But it's still, you just get really mad at
I
him.
don't want to call you out like that, sir.
But here's the cool thing. There's another Brazil comic book in here. A cover I've never seen. Aranja 105. Now, this cover wasn't familiar with, but then you open up the interior and you find out that this is Spider-Man 300, the retelling of the story, a Spider-Man 300 edition in Brazil, but it's a different cover. So now we have two different Brazil key Spider-Man appearances because you have alternate covers and alternate interiors. I freaking love collecting comics.
Never would have thought that all of that went into it.
All right. And that brings us to this mail call that I got here. We have Amazing Spider-Man, issue number 364. I had to find someone in Greece to hunt this down for me and send it to me. I was looking on eBay for about 2 months since Matthew Roybal, shout out, introduced this to me. This is a Greek comic book that came out in the early 90s, and it's known as Spider-Man versus the Sex Toy.
I don't remember that comic.
Well, it's because it didn't exist. See, this issue is
We don't get anything cool in America.
For real, dude. All right, so this comic came out in the early 90s. It's a retelling of Spider-Man 364. And right here in this bubble, the literal translation is Spider-Man versus the Shocker. Now, the translator in the early 90s, his name was Vasilis. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. He did a cultural translation of the interior of the comic. He just did the translation as he was supposed to. But when he was given the opportunity to do the translation on the cover, well, instead of doing the cultural translation, he did the literal translation. And Ryan, what is the literal translation in Greek of the villain's name, the Shocker?
You might not think it based on the name, but his name is Shocker, and it's not electricity-based powers. His powers are more based around sound and like vibrations and sonic booms and Shockwave, I guess, is kind of more of like what they were thinking for.
Call him like Shockwave or something.
That would have been a very appropriate and very 90s supervillain name that would have worked perfectly fine. So in English, it's Shocker. In Greek, the literal translation is vibrator.
So this translator got called in by the editor. This is the folklore. And the editor was like, what are you doing? This is like, that's funny, but what are you doing?
Spider-Man versus the vibrator.
Yeah. And they had a bit of a chuckle, but in the end, they decided, let's just do it. It'll sell, right? Like, let's just do it. It's just funny. Who cares, right? Let's just do it and see what happens. We'll apologize later. And that's what they did. So, literal translation, Spider-Man versus the vibrator, the sex toy key. Had to own it. Shout out to my homie in Greece.
We're coming up on the end of the year, and it's got me feeling all reminiscy. That's a word. I'm going to make that a word if that's not a word. And when we started this year, I definitely did not think this foreign comics side of things would be... I didn't even know that this whole world existed. And there's so many layers even within the foreign comics world, like the Spider-Man versus the vibrator issue. That's just got me excited. Like, who knows what's going to happen next year?
Yeah, do you like these kind of stories, these types of comic books? Let us know in the comment section below. You picking up any foreign stuff? You know I am.